Welcome back to the Optima Method, where structure creates freedom. Today, we're talking about something that sounds very simple, but quietly breaks businesses every single day. We're talking about roles, responsibilities, and ownership. Because here's the truth. If everyone owns it, no one owns it. And when ownership is unclear, services slip, tasks get missed, deadlines move, the clients feel it, the teams feel it, and guess what? The leaders, they actually carry it. So now let's fix that. I want you to think about a moment inside your business where something dropped or failed. Maybe a client follow-up email did not go out, a proposal sat in drafts for a week, an invoice was not sent, or a team member assumed someone else was handling it. When you trace it back, rarely is it incompetence. It's usually that no one had the process documented and no true ownership was defined. In growing businesses, especially startups, roles evolve organically. Someone helps, someone jumps in, someone usually does that, but usually is not a role. And when growth increases complexity, assumptions turn into operational leakage. More people end up taking on more than their responsibility calls out for. And in established businesses, if roles and responsibilities are not defined, it is a task that gets forgotten quickly, or a task that does not get handled timely. Defining the roles and responsibilities allows you to hold yourself accountable, but also others. This is another layer within my master SOP where we define the scope and the purpose, the ownership that needs to be clearly defined to ensure the businesses or departments run smoothly. So, why does clear ownership matter operationally? Let's get practical for a minute. When ownership is clearly defined, tasks move without reminders. Decisions happen at the right level. Accountability is clean. Service delivery becomes predictable, and leaders stop being the bottleneck. Clear roles protect clear client experience, revenue flow, team morale, execution velocity. And when they are unclear, here's what happens. There are delays. This is where people wait because they don't want to overstep. There is duplication because there are two people or more completing the same task. There is the clear avoidance when no one touches it because it feels politically unclear. And then there is the unnecessary escalation where everything ends up back on the leader's desk. That's not a talent issue. That's a structural issue. If you've never formally used one, the RACI matrix is one of the simplest and most powerful governance tools you can implement, and you can implement this today, even if you're a solopreneur. RACI stands for responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. So let's break this down clearly to help you get this implemented today. Let's start with responsible. This is the person doing the work. They execute, they complete the task, they produce the deliverable. You can have more than one responsible party. Here's an example. Uploading course modules. 2 or more members may share that same execution. Now let's focus on accountable. This is the single owner, only one. This person ensures it gets done correctly and on time. They answer for the outcome. And if something fails, this is the name tied to it. They are ultimately responsible. You cannot have multiple accountables. If you do, you have none. Then there is a famous consulted responsibility. These are subject matter experts, and they provide input before decisions are finalized. Communication here is two-way. Here's a simple example. Finance is consulted before prices change. Easy enough, right? And then last but not least, informed. These are the stakeholders who need visibility. They don't take action. They just need to be made aware of the process or the task. Communication here is one way. An example here is that sales is informed after pricing changes go live. Very simple, very straightforward. So let's put this into practice. Imagine a simple onboarding process. I've got 3 different tasks, and I'm going to walk through each one of them. I'm going to walk through who's responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. And please note that your business may have different roles and responsibilities, but this is just an example to show you how it applies. So the first task here is a task called send the welcome email. The person responsible is the admin. Accountable is the operations lead. Consulted is sales, and informed is the founder or leader. The next task is setting up your CRM. Responsible is the CRM specialist. Accountable is the operation lead. Consulted is IT, and informed is sales. And then finally, the last task I've got documented here as an example is invoicing the client. Finance is responsible, but the CFO is accountable. No one necessarily needs to be consulted, so we can always leave that blank. And informed is operations. Notice something critical here. Every task has one person accountable. That's what prevents drift. Tasks are clearly defined and the right accountability is held. Now, what happens when we don't have structure? Let's talk about the cost of not defining those roles. Because unstructured roles don't just create confusion, they create measurable business impact. I'm going to walk you through a few of these impacts. The first impact, as an example, is your manager bottleneck or founder bottleneck. When no one is clearly accountable, the team escalates just to be safe. The leader, the manager, the founder becomes the decision approver, the quality checker, the escalation point, and ultimately the backup executor. The growth stalls here. Impact number 2 is your service inconsistency. If onboarding depends on who happens to do it, the client receives variable experiences. Inconsistent experience does not equal to a proper brand. Inconsistent experiences also drives customers away. It is extremely important to add those dependencies and those experiences all into one. Having a consistent framework, a methodology to follow, helps with the service inconsistency. It actually provides better customer service overall. Impact number 3 is your team friction. When something isn't done, the tension builds and you can feel it. You will feel like, I thought you had that, or you start seeing it. I thought you had that. I didn't know it was mine, or I wasn't told. That tension is structural, not personal. And last but not least, impact number 4 is your hidden revenue leaks. Missed invoices, delayed renewals, forgotten follow-ups. These are not personality flaws. These are ownership gaps. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Many leaders resist formal role mapping, even solopreneurs. Why? Because it feels corporate, it feels rigid, overstructured. But here's the reality. Clarity doesn't limit people. It liberates them. When someone knows what they own, what they don't own, what they decide, and what they escalate, the confidence increases. Speed increases. Structure creates freedom. You do not need a 200-line spreadsheet tomorrow, or even in general. Here's where we're going to start. I want you to write this down and take these steps today, tomorrow, or later this week, just to get you started. Pick one process. If it's onboarding, content publishing, billing, hiring, it does not matter. Pick one process. Now, step 2 will be to list every task. And if you've already created and used my master SOP, those tasks should already be documented. So you can just use that and leverage that information. List every task, just not the departments, not the job titles. It specifically has to be tasks. What do you do, when, and how? Those are tasks. Break it down in granular detail. So that way you can have the details aligned with the roles and responsibilities. Now you're going to take the third step, which is assigning the RACI for each task. You're going to ask, who does this? Who answers this? Who must be consulted and who needs visibility? Who does it is the person responsible. Who answers for it is the person accountable. And remember, you can only have one person accountable. Then you've got consulted and an informed, just the person who needs visibility. Force that single accountability just to make sure you've got that nailed down. Step number 4 is communicate it. Do not quietly document this on your own. Review it live. Review it with the other task owners. Review it with the people who you're surrounded with because their opinion matters. That's the only way a documentation can become stronger. That way you're internally aligned, and that way you make sure that you're going to be able to hold yourself, but also the others accountable. Alignment conversation matter more than the document itself. Now, I've seen this repeatedly inside complex corporate environments and smaller growing teams. The difference between stable operations and chaos is rarely talent. You usually hire the right people for the role. So in the end, the issue becomes the governance. When ownership is clear, execution stabilizes. When it isn't, even high performers struggle. And leaders, especially strong ones, often overcompensate by stepping in instead of structuring better. That works temporarily. It does not scale. Often when I have put in SOPs and structure, the new hires, those individuals being onboarded, they tend to say, "Hey, Saskia, you did a great job documenting this from start to finish. I was able to understand X, Y, and Z." And ultimately, all of these tasks documented, your SOPs documented, will help the next person in line. It will only make their lives easier to understand and really come to you with very defined questions that may not be documented and that just need to be fine-tuned. So if your business feels heavier than it should, if you're answering questions you shouldn't have to answer, if you're reviewing work you thought you delegated, it's probably not effort, it's the ownership. Because the moment roles are defined, the stress, the uncertainty disappears. And when that disappears, the momentum returns. That life-work balance really stands out. You're really making the individuals happy to be able to focus on their tasks and they truly know what they are responsible for. If this episode resonated with you, take one process this week and map out your RACI. Not perfectly, just clearly. And if you want the frameworks, the templates, and operational architecture that builds a real framework into your business, subscribe to this podcast and follow along. The templates are available to you. I'll link it in the show notes for you to be able to track down as well. And that's why we are here. I want to be able to share this level of detail with you so you become stronger and better, more structured and organized, and build that foundation. This is the Optima Method, where we create, optimize, and operationalize. I'll see you next time.